Hello everyone and welcome to the Anti-Tekken 2.03 patch guide. As always in this video, I'm going to be walking you through all of the important changes, how to defend against all of the characters that got significant changes in this last patch, and I'm going to be giving you my thoughts at the end on this patch and what it's going to look like going into the future of patches for Tekken 8. Before we get into that though, hey, did you know I have a second channel? I actually have a video reacting to the patch notes on that channel. There's a link down in the description. I'm trying to upload once every other day is when I get my rhythm on it, moving into uploading every day. So please go check that out and show some support. I'd appreciate it a ton. All right, without further ado, let's get into the first character, Alisa. Alright, so here we are with Alisa, and the reason why I'm using Shaheen is going to be made apparent in just a moment. So Alisa got a change to her dual boot forward 1+2, which, okay, I'm not prepared apparently, even though I am, which is going to be this move here, the big plus on block mid, that as a reminder, you can indeed sidewalk to the right. This has been changed from +7 to +4. So the initial thought on what this might do for this move is that you think, oh, well, now I can sidestep her stuff. And in some cases, that's true. But Alisa's problem is that she has really good moves in DES that track to both the left and the right. You can't really sidestep against Alisa when she's in DES, and I have this to show you. I'm going to try sidestepping after this to the left. You'll see I get clipped, and then I'll try sidestepping the same move to the right, and you see that I actually don't get clipped because that's going to move into our second point. But the point is that you can't really sidestep here. In fact, if I actually do it like this will be a better demonstration because this move tracks to her right here. That was not a good example because I ended up crouching instead of sidestepping, but you can see that tracks to her right. So sidestepping is not the answer here, even though it seems more natural because it's only +4. The actual answer is that you want to, sorry if there was a noise there, by the way, there was something in my headphones and I don't know if that came out on OBS. Apologies for that. The actual answer is that you want to backdash. A lot of her moves, like back one, for instance, are just going to straight up whiff at this range. This is one of those ranges for Alisa where she can start whiffing things and she's going to be a lot more limited in her options if you just backdash because you get the launch punish. Now, the other thing you can do here as well, I don't know what Shaheen's down jab is down jab. The reason why is because Alisa's fastest move out of DES is forward 1, it's 12 frames, and her second fastest one is 1, it's 13 frames. If you down jab here, you're opening yourself up to eating the 1 here, but it's going to allow you to be able to shut down her pressure. Now, if she's just going between moves like back 1, 1, and forward 1, another option that you have as well to deal with this is Power Crush, however you do that with Shaheen. Found it. So as you can see, if Alisa does forward 1 there, for example, Power Crush is going to be a way that you can get Alisa off of you now. Before the patch with this being +7, because forward 1 is a 12 frame move, Power Crush was not fast enough to actually be able to beat forward 1, and now this becomes a more complete option. Now, Alisa still has other things that she can do to avoid this. For example, if Alisa decides to do up or down 3+4, I don't know what it is in this game. I played her in Tekken 7. You can see that is still able to actually avoid the Power Crush. She also, of course, has access to her lows, which are also going to beat the Power Crush, so Alisa still has quite a few options to be able to counter this, but that is a more enticing option for you to be able to choose now when you block this move. So the two main options are either Power Crush to go through all of the highs and mids, a typical thing in Season 2 with these last couple of patches, or you can choose the down jab, and that's going to be everything except for the forward 1, the 1, and the orbital, which no Alisa player ever uses anyway, so you don't have to really worry about it unless you're like Tekken God or something. All right, moving on to Ana. Ana is the most significant character to get changed in this patch, and this first move is one of the biggest reasons why. Down back 4 has gone from +8 to +6, and again, a theme that we've been noticing throughout Season 2 with these last couple of changes is having the ability to be able to power crush through a stance through all of the characters' highs and mids. And that's one of the things that down back 4 does now. It went from +8 to +6 on hit, meaning that you can power crush through the Hammer Chance 1. Sorry, it took me a second to remember the name of this move, whereas before this patch, you couldn't, effectively turning off your not sidestep, your power crush. Now, this also opens up a couple of other options as well, like sidestepping. Even though you're -6 with a well-timed sidestep, depending on the character, you can now sidestep past a lot of Ana's options afterwards. On top of that, there was also the change to Hammer Chance 1+2, making it able to be beaten by a Power Crush. So that's going to turn Power Crush into more of an effective option now than it was before, because now you can legitimately go through everything. If you're not a character like Ana that can do Power Crush from crouching, then the Heat Burst is going to be a great option to be able to get out of this, on top of just being able to sidestep a lot of Ana's options that she has. This also extends to Ana's Hammer Chance 2, albeit you have to step it the other way. You have to sidestep it to the right, but this is another move that you can sidestep now that you weren't previously able to, as far as I know. To be honest with you, I haven't really labbed this before the patch, but as far as I've seen and I've read, this is something you can do now that you weren't able to do before. And once again, just to reiterate, this is another thing where Power Crush is going to be a good option to stop all of this if you don't want to guess between her doing the 1 or doing the 2, if you want to choose some sort of defense, and if you want to sidestep. Now, while sidestepping seems like a very enticing option here, even though she still does have a sort of mix-up afterwards with the 1 and with the 2 in Hammer Chance, she has options that are able to cleanly beat sidestep in both directions. One of those options, of course, is the homing low. And not only is this going to cover sidestep here, but it's also going to cover your Power Crush Heat Burst, and on counter hit, it gives her Heat Engager guaranteed. So that means that no matter what option that you choose to defend here, while you still have options, it's still going to carry risk with it. Now, there is one more thing you can do to shut down a lot of these things that Ana is doing, and that is down jab. Previously, down jab wasn't an option that would work extremely well because it could be beaten. Oops, my bad. Oh, no. Sorry about that, I can't hit buttons. Because it could be beaten by the 4, but now it can't because she's only +6 instead of +8, so there's no trade in this situation. It beats that option pretty cleanly, and this is Ana's other option that's going to be able to beat sidestep. So if you're throwing out Heat Burst after this, down jab, and sidestep, Ana is going to have some really good options to be able to beat it if she has the right read, but if she doesn't, then she is taking quite a bit of risk. For example, if you down jab here, she also has the shift to Chaos Judgment, which is going to give her a really big reward. But if you get the read that she's going to do it, then you can hop kick her out of it and then launch her. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I think your job as the person playing against Ana here at this point after this move hits is to wait out, see if you have the read, understand what your options are when you have that read. If Ana isn't doing anything besides the 2, the 4, or the homing low, then sidestep left is going to be a good option to beat whatever she's going to do. If she's going to do anything besides the 1, the 4, or the homing low, then you sidestep right, specifically trying to avoid the 2. If you think she's going to do anything besides the low or the grab, then Heat Burst is going to be a good way to get out of the pressure. And if you think she's going to do anything besides the 2, because it's 15 frames, so it beats down jab, or she's going to shift into Chaos Judgment and then launch you, then down jab is a good option to get out of Ana's pressure. And just to demonstrate here, as you can see, because I probably should have done this before, the 2 is going to hit you if you try down jabbing. So those are the options that beat down jab. It's going to be the 2, and it's going to be the manual transition into Chaos Judgment. Also, apologies if I missed anything in there. I'm, of course, doing this on my own. I'm doing the note-taking on my own, so there are going to be some gaps in what I say, some holes. Please feel free to correct me in the comments if I miss something when it comes to any of these segments. I really do appreciate it, and it helps out the people that are watching these videos. So, The second change that Ana got, and I believe it's her last proper big change, is the change which we showed to Hammer Chance 1+2. It is now +6 instead of +2, and you can power crush through it. But that option has also been added to... Sorry, the option nerf has been added to Hammer Chance 2-1-2, giving the same exact changes. It has gone from +6 to +2, meaning not only is sidestepping bad, but also power crush is better. So before Ana, of course, after she does any of these attacks, she goes in the crouch. She could do While Rising 3, which is an 11-frame While Rising move. This would be Power Crush. And then on counter hit would give her Heat Engager guaranteed. That is no longer a factor. If Ana does this and you block it and you choose to Heat Burst, I have the wrong recording on. If you block either the Hammer Chance 1+2 or this one and choose to Heat Burst afterwards, or do a Power Crush from crouch if you have access to that, then that is going to be able to beat all of Ana's While Rising options. Now, with this being +2, of course, she still has access to from crouch down forward 2. Most power crushes are going to be about 20 frames or longer. Somewhere between 18 and 24 frames is the typical range for power crush. And that means that Ana still has access to a from crouch low to launch you. So that's going to be her main way to counter Power Crush after you block this. So it's not like Power Crush is completely free, but it's going to give you more defensive options after you block this move or you block this move from Ana. And that's also going to mean that when Ana goes into Hammer Chance and does the 2, say after the down back 4, you're not forced as much to make a defensive decision afterwards after you block this, because now it's not like the end of the world and she doesn't get a free 50-50 from crouch if you block the third hit of the Hammer Chance 2-1-2. And that means that you're free to stand block more, and if you're stand blocking more and she does the mid, then she's -14 on block, which let me switch this over so I can actually show you that here. So that means it's going to be a little bit hard for Ana to open you up. She has to take more risks, and you just overall have more defensive options in these situations. All right, Asuka. So Asuka had a change to her held Rage Art. The previous way that you beat this, and this is still very much the case, is that you would want to sidestep left and block after the flash animation. To demonstrate this, if I sidestep left and block, you can see if she half charges it, it will realign, but I'll block it at -18 now because of the universal change to Rage Art, and I'd be able to launch her. If she does the full charge version, even if I sidestep and block, there's no tracking, so I'm still able to get my full launcher afterwards. So the only way that Asuka is able to beat this, the mind game, is that if she does an uncharged one and I try sidestepping, if I was actually able to sidestep, that'd be nice, then that would hit me. Of course, the risk is that she gets launched if you choose to just block and don't care about the minus frames. Now this entire dynamic has changed because the fully charged version is -13 on block. So while the counterplay we just discussed still exists, where you can sidestep left and block, and as long as she doesn't do the uncharged one, you'll be able to launch punish her regardless of what she does, and this is going to be an important option as well, depending on how much health she has when she does the Rage Art. You don't have to do this anymore to be able to punish Asuka for doing the Rage Art, which is the main and most important thing, is that you're not letting Asuka get away with doing Rage Art for free. Besides that, during Asuka's install state, the behavior off of up forward 1-2 has been changed. So now Asuka isn't getting the guaranteed follow-up anymore. And just to sort of reiterate from a previous video what the counterplay is to this move, if you know that Asuka is going to do the second hit here, then you can actually power crush through the second hit like this. All right, Bryan. So Bryan had one change that some people are calling a buff. the behavior on his Snake Eye 3+4 2 has been changed, so Bryan no longer gets a wall combo off of this. What this means for you is that you are more safe to preemptively sidestep, because if Bryan does the uncharged version, then he's not going to get full combo off of it anymore. This is similar to Claudio's change to forward 4-3-2, and frankly, it's warranted. If you don't, then you were fine with Claudio's forward 4-3-2, and you weren't because no one was. Now, of course, important to know, if he charges the full charge version of this, then he's still going to get wall splat. So it's important for you to not only be able to sidestep this, but also be able to react to the 2 different hits. So to demonstrate this here, you see if I sidestep right, I'll get hit by that and knocked down. But even if there's a wall there, I'm not going to die for it. And if I sidestep the fully charged version, then I'm going to be able to get full launcher on him if he ever did the fully charged version. Why does this always happen when I'm recording? But the other thing that you can do as well is you can react to the charge. It's been a while since I've done this, but let's see if I can do it. He crushed my high. He crushed my jab. I'm so mad. There you go. So you can see that you can also react to the fully charged version. Been a while since I've done that, but it's also very important for you to be able to do that as well, regardless, so you don't have to eat the pressure at the wall in the first place. But if you're not as good at reacting to it, or you don't want to rely on doing that, then you have sidestep as a more viable option at your disposal. All right, so Clive had a couple of changes that I think are very perplexing and don't make a lot of sense, and I'll explain why. The first one is to down 1. So it says that increase the distance between to the opponent on hit. Now, this change, a lot of people are saying you can backdash out of his Wild Rising 4 now. No, you can't. You do not have the distance to be able to backdash out of this if this hits you at any range besides tip range. So to demonstrate that here, you can see if I try backdashing here, nothing happens. But if I'm at tip range here when this hits, then I can. That's the only change. Don't rely on backdashing to be able to get out of this. And on top of that, if Clive tries to trap you with 1+2 here, that is going to be able to reach. And so if you're trying to crouch for the from crouch down 4-2, which a lot of Clive players do, yeah. So just that's something that you gotta be really mindful of. And on top of that, because of the increased knockback, that means that if Clive chooses himself to backdash afterwards, like this, and you try down jabbing him out of his from crouch low, then he's able to backdash out of your down jab now and launch punish you. So I actually consider this to be a buff for Clive, not a nerf. Because for the Clive player, it effectively changes nothing, and for you as the defender, it makes your down jab worse and more risky to be able to stop the from crouch down 4-2 and Wild Rising 1+2 mix, which again, from this range, even if you backdash out of it, he's still going to be able to reach you with it. So this is a very confusing change. I don't know why they did. This is a buff. This isn't a nerf. I don't get it. The other change as well, which I really don't get. Well, actually, let's go over this first. So there was also a change to his Wild Rising 3, which reduces the knockback distance when it's blocked, meaning that -8, you more cleanly get your turn now afterwards. Okay, so now let's go into the really perplexing change that I don't understand, and that is going to be to his heat forward 2-1-2. The uncharged version has been changed from +2 to -9, and the charged version has been changed from +13 to +11. The second part, the charged version, no problems there. It's what they did to Yoshimitsu. It's in line with a lot of the changes they've been making to these guard break attacks. The first change, though, I don't really think makes any sense and doesn't really do anything, and I'll show you why. Now, what I find really confusing about this change is that this move is sidesteppable. You can see that you can sidestep this move to the right. And of course, you get a full launch punish on Clive, and this is the uncharged version of the move as well. On top of that, Clive has a pseudo mix-up with forward 2-2-2 that allows him to go into heat dash here for full combo. But if you sidestep and block at the right time, you can see that you can block the 2 while also simultaneously sidestepping the 1. And it's been a while since I've done this, but as you can see, you can option select this. It's a little bit tricky, but you don't actually eat a mix-up here. The problem, though, is that if we switch to a male character like Clive, for instance, this isn't the case. A lot of male characters in this game do not have the ability to sidestep this third hit, making it effectively homing and having no counterplay. As you can see, I'm trying to sidestep right with Clive, and he just eats it. So this is very character dependent, and it makes this move very different in terms of strength from character to character. For about half of the cast, this move is not really that useful against a skilled opponent who knows the matchup well, and for another half of the cast, this move is completely uncounterable bullshit and frankly needs to get nerfed into the ground. The reason I have some issue with this move is because it's not really addressing the problem. The problem with this move is the fact that male characters, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, cannot sidestep this move to the right, while a lot of the female characters can. If this move was made homogenized in its defensive properties so that every character could sidestep it to the right, then there would be no need to change the frames. As it stands now, this move still feels bad for the Clive player because if you're playing against a female character, then the mix-up between 4-2-2-1 and 4-2-2-2 is completely useless, and the move that was already quite bad to use against those characters now serves zero purpose. Against male characters, it feels bad for both players because it's still a guessing game on whether you sidestep or not for the fully charged version, but even if Clive does the uncharged version, he's left at -9 and loses his turn anyway, while in heat, meaning that with depending on the character they're playing against, how long they can keep up plus frames and how long they can keep up momentum, that might mean that Clive's heat just drains entirely because he's gonna have a hard time getting his turn back. So all in all, this change is stupid. It's not one of those things, like I've been saying with a lot of these changes in these patches, that doesn't actually address the issue. It doesn't address the problem and why the move needs to be nerfed. And I can't quite bring myself to understand why they thought this was the proper solution. But regardless of that, that's where it's at now. So if you're playing a female character, nothing's really changed in this department. Sidestep right block, launch him if he does the 1. If he does the 2, you block it and then you move on with your day. And of course, if he doesn't heat dash, then you punish him. If you're playing a male character, then you just have to get it the right read. But if you block the fully charged version, you're no longer going to get hit with the 1+2 into heat dash anymore. Devil Jin, 14 frame while standing launcher. They said that the buffs they had planned for this patch were going to be minimal and not game warping. Can you believe that shit? All right, Lidia, oh dear God. So Lidia got a nerf that is warranted, frankly. The change that she got is that Wolf 4 is now +5 instead of +8. So, without getting into too many details on this, because this is an anti-character guy and I already have a video going over these changes, what that means for you if you play Lidia. Basically, in short, before this change, if Lidia had very high execution, 1 frame length forward 2 was able to be any option that the opponent did afterwards. Whether that be sidestep, whether that be heat burst, whether that be down jab, anything that the opponent did after this hit, if Lidia had the execution to be able to do 1 frame length forward 2, then it would beat it. That is no longer the case. This means that as the defender here, if I do this and then forward 2 afterwards, 1 frame length forward 2, let's make sure I did it right here. I should get counter hit by this. It trades, so this is on frame 2. But you know what? That's going to demonstrate this perfectly fine. If I try sidewalking here, then I can actually sidewalk out of the forward, forward 2, I can sidestep left, and that's going to avoid the forward, forward 2. Actually, let me double check this real quick. All right, there we go. Okay, so I have this now set up so that forward, forward 2 is hitting on frame 1. So as you can see here, after this hits, if I try sidestepping right and I try sidestepping right, specifically if I do this on as a 1 frame length, then you can see that it tracks to Lidia's weak side sidestep right. The people who tell you that sidestep left is weak side are wrong. However, if you try sidewalking left here, that is going to beat the forward, forward 2. For some characters, they can also sidestep left. Not every character, your best bet is going to be to sidewalk, but sidestep and block is also going to be a pretty decent option. Not that it really does anything in the grand scheme of things. Now, if Lidia doesn't have the execution for the 1 frame link and she does it on frame 2, then sidestep right is actually going to beat this as well. So the only way that forward, forward 2 is going to beat your sidestep here is if the Lidia player has extremely high execution, which means against 99.9% of Lidia players, you are going to be free to sidestep right here and basically beat every option that she does. However, if you're playing against me, who can do the 1 frame link forward, forward 2, then it's going to be a little bit more tricky. If you choose to sidestep left to avoid the, let me try that again, the forward, forward 2 here, then Lidia has a couple of options to beat that as well. Down forward 2, for example, is going to beat you going to sidestep left, which again is Lidia's strong side. I'm getting myself confused here. She's also going to have access to back 1. That's going to realign with sidestep left, as we'll demonstrate here. And she also has, of course, access to down back 3, her homing low. Now, both of these options, again, lose to sidestep right here. So as we'll demonstrate, again, Lidia's weak side, sidestep right beats that, and sidestep right is also going to beat the down forward 2. So again, if the Lidia player does not have frame tight execution, if she cannot perform the 1 frame links, then this isn't going to be an issue. I'll try doing this not on the 1 frame link to demonstrate here. So I don't know what frame I have this on. It's way slower than frame 2, so this is going to be pretty typical. You can see sidestep right is going to beat that without, again, perfect frame tight execution, which most Lidia players don't have, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but it's true. So, because of that, against the majority of Lidia players here, sidestep right is just going to blow her up. If you're playing against a really strong Lidia player, one of the top 10 Lidia players in the world, then you're going to be put in a little bit more of a mix-up situation. And this is also to encourage Lidia players that are watching this, learn the goddamn 1 frame link, for Christ's sake! Sorry, I'm just sick of seeing Lidia players do down forward 2. So besides sidestepping though, you do have a couple of more options. As we've demonstrated a little bit in this video, if you're in crouch and you choose to heat burst here, that's going to go through a lot of Lidia's options. Not all of them though. The safest option that she's going to be able to do here to be able to beat this is 2-4. Of course, with this being a high, let me reset so I actually have heat burst available. You can duck under her and launch her, but that's going to be something she can do to beat Power Crush if she's continuing her offense. Of course, Lidia is also able to sidestep here, which is pretty typical of Lidia. She's a very neutral-heavy character, and because of that, she doesn't always want to go in. She relies on you making a mistake in order for her to be able to get out her damage. And that also means that if you try doing Heat Burst, oh my god, let me try that again. If you try doing a Heat Burst after this hits and she does down back 3, that's going to be a way for her to be able to open you up, to be able to get this big counter hit, get the Oki afterwards, and then she has 3 stacks, delete your gray health. So what's the option that you have to deal with all of this then? Well, the answer that you have here is down jab. That's going to be one of your best options to be able to stop Lidia from continuing her offense. Very typical in this matchup. Down jab is going to be a very good option in general. And again, the only way that Lidia is actually able to properly beat this is with a 1 frame length forward forward 2. The reason why is because on frame 1 of forward forward 2, this is a 13 frame move. 1 frame length means this move comes out on frame 14, giving her counter hit and allowing her to get horse 2 into heat afterwards. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird change. Really, it's incentivizing high execution plays with Lidia. It's incentivizing doing the 1 frame length forward forward 2, and that's what you as a defender have to look out for. Is this Lidia player a strong fundamental Tekken player? Do they have high execution? Are they linking the forward forward 2 to be able to stuff out my 13 frame move after, say, a back 1? If they are doing stuff like that in the match, then your sidestep and down jab are going to be very risky options. Sidestep left if you think she's going to do forward forward 2, otherwise sidestep right, and be very careful of sidestepping right while she is in heat. If the Lidia player doesn't have high execution, she can't do the 1 frame length forward forward 2, then sidestep right block is going to be a good option to shut down basically all of her offense afterwards, and down jab is going to be good for stopping her offense on top of preventing her from being able to do the down back 3 for her mix-up. Alright, so Reina got changed to Heaven's Wrath 3+4. This is now 0 on block instead of +3. So what this means, first off, is if you down jab, this isn't going to trade with down forward 1. But what it also means is that you can actually contest what Reina's going to do afterwards with While Rising 4, on top of just being able to use your movement to get around her moves. Nothing really specific to talk about here. If there are specific things that this affects in terms of the matchup, that's something for Reina players to tell you. I'm not very familiar with it. That's just how it is conceptually, and it's important to know. All right, and finally, Zafina, her back 1+2 got changed, so it's no longer homing. To be honest with you, I don't think that this is going to be a very important change. Now, I don't think I played against a single Zafina player in Season 2 besides in viewer games. So take what I'm saying here with a very big pinch of salt. But the way I've always kind of looked at this move is a zoning / keep out tool. So a lot of the time you're using this move is like out here to be able to zone out the opponent, right? Because of its super long range, and that's going to cover your approach in certain situations like here, allowing you to do forward 3 from out here without being at too much risk of the opponent being able to get in on you. What this move affects more than anything is up close when Zafina's trying to do it during her pressure. And she uses this while she's in her enhanced state to get plus frames, which they've also changed to only being +2 from, what was it? I gotta double check. No, it was always +2. They changed it from +4 to +2. Okay, I'm not crazy. So, all in all, the plus frames are really what makes the difference here, going from +4 to +2, and the chip damage has been reduced, but this is still going to be a pretty good zoning tool from out here, a pretty good keep out tool, so that's something to keep in mind. Of course, the -6 from out here as well, with the pushback, means that Zafina is still going to have good opportunities to be able to get in on you with her plus frames, but really what you gotta be looking out for is if a Zafina player is like trying to throw in her pressure here, and then she's doing something like this, specifically to get the plus frame so that she can like start trying to get you with lows and such. She's not going to have as much of an opportunity to be able to do that. And also important to know is that your down forward 1 here is going to be hers. So if she is doing something like this and then she's trying to go for down 3, down forward 1 is going to be a much better and more viable option here, because the only thing that she has to be able to deal with that is, of course, her Power Crush parry, which will get her launched if it whiffs, and some 10 frame moves. Down forward 1 isn't going to stuff you out of your attacks anymore. And that's going to be everything for this patch. Man, actually recording this video, it turns out that there was quite a lot more than I had otherwise thought. So let's talk about what I think of the patch. But first, before we do that, I want to give a big thanks to our channel members, Lisetto, Debauch Prism, Eleanor, Tapion, Tekken, TKN, either way, and Devil GTO. Thank you guys very much for supporting the channel. It helps me be able to do these videos and helps me be able to continue this, so I appreciate your support very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, my thoughts on this patch are as follows. I think it's a good patch. I know a lot of people are saying that this patch is bad, that they should have done more, etc., but I think that this is essentially what we were expecting from the patch if we actually knew what the scope of this patch entailed. They're continuing to patch out the same things that we've seen in previous patches, and I've brought that up in this video. Patching out situations where characters would do a move and then you have no real defensive counterplay. Moves like Ana's down back 4 on hit, for example, just prevent you from having any proper defense afterwards, and now you have a more reliable way to get out of that with Heat Burst. I think there are also some misses in this patch as well. For example, I think that in general, just going down this direction, it feels like I've seen with a couple of characters now where they do a move that forces you in the crouch and then the intended defensive option is Heat Burst feels strange to me. It's not something I particularly like. I think other things as well, like Clive's forward 2-2-1 in Heat being -9 instead of reducing the tracking capability of it to make it more universal, the counterplay across all characters, is also something that I don't really like and I don't think is addressing the problem. Just about every one of these changes up until now, that's something I have said about pretty much every character. This change is nice, but I feel like it's not actually addressing the issue. And so what I want to see in the future is more hits to things that I think are actually addressing the issue. It feels like there are a lot of times where they're skirting around what the problem of the move is, whether it's out of ignorance of what the actual problem is, or just because somewhere in there they designed to move a certain way and they don't want to change that, but they know that needs to be nerfed in some way. What exactly the issue is, though, I don't know. And I hope that they're able to figure it out and fix it, because I don't think I'm the only one that's sitting here looking at some of these changes and scratching my head going, why did they do that? Like, yeah, it's fine, but you couldn't have done the other thing that actually fixes the problem? But in general, I think the game is now at a point where there aren't too many things left that I really have to complain about in terms of not having defensive options. I've said this before and I'll say it again, going into the future, I think that the focus should be on risk reward instead of there being a lack of defensive counterplay. For example, against Asuka, and this is an example I've brought up before, she can do running 3-2, and then you can down jab her out of all of her options. The problem, though, is that the risk reward on down jabbing is so monumentally high that, yeah, even though you can beat all of the options that she does afterwards with it, do you really want to? Same with Power Crush. Yeah, you can Power Crush Asuka out of all of her highs and mids, but if she does a low, then she counter hit confirms it, and you just die, especially if your back is to the wall. So even though that clear defensive counterplay is there, do you really want to do it when it's that big of a risk? There are some instances in this game as well where I think the counterplay is just fine, it makes sense, and especially for the move that the opponent is blocking, the risk reward is proportional. For example, after Leo's running 3, the only thing that Leo can really do afterwards to beat the Power Crush is the -13 homing low. And on counter hit, he doesn't, Leo, sorry, I just say he as a gender neutral word, regardless, whatever the case, that move doesn't give you any additional reward on it. Counter hit is just a low that you do. It's the way to beat the Power Crush, and the Power Crush beats all of the moves that Leo can do out of the stance. And off of a plus on block running move, I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's where it should be, frankly. I think that other examples, though, of the same thing, like Leroy sidestep 3+4, giving him stuff like back 4 on counter hit as an example, is way too strong and needs to be changed. So going into the future now, that's what I would like to see. I would like to see more of that. I would like to see more nerfs on risk reward, specifically 2 moves on block and hit that go in the stance and force mix-ups. I think that Lidia has always been the best example of how this should be in Tekken. When you play against Lidia, you have very clear low-risk options to be able to beat her stance mix-ups. Obviously, sidestep right block beats everything except for her horse 1+2 after forward 4-2 or down back 3, and it leaves Lidia at -1, meaning that it's effectively reset the neutral situation. And if the opponent has the read that you're not going to do horse 3, sidestep right duck beats every option that she does out of horse stance, and she gets launched for every single thing that she does besides the 3. And if Lidia chooses to commit to the 3, then jab is going to float her and give you full combo, on top of stuffing out a lot of other moves as well, such as horse 4. And then you add down jab on top of that, being able to stuff out every move except for the 3. And you have a case where the Lidia player actually has to think a lot more about her approach after she goes into stance, and there's more of an interaction between the two players. If every character worked in the same way as Lidia in this regard, I think the game would be a lot better, and I think that's something that they need to focus on and strive for the future. Now, going into after this patch, there's been a lot of discourse surrounding this patch because Tekken players have interpreted it as this being the last balance patch of the season. I have interpreted that as Tekken players are incapable of reading. If you have looked at these last few patches and what they said at the beginning of this patch cycle, they have basically said that they had a clear focus and direction in mind for these patches. Changing the risk reward on moves, giving more defensive counterplay so that these moves on block and on hit with some of these lows do not lead to one-sided matches. This is something that I have been saying for months, it feels like, at this point, and they clearly outlined this in the patch notes of this last patch. In fact, I'm going to read it verbatim for you, just so that we can all clearly be on the same page. Quote, "We have continued our effort from the version 2.01 update to address moves that offer disproportionately high rewards relative to their risks, as well as high-performance moves that can easily create repeated advantageous situations and lead to one-sided outcomes," unquote. So, these last patches since version 2.01 have had a very clear goal and direction in mind. With this last patch, that goal and direction has been met. All of the characters and all of the moves that they have wanted to change up until this point has been changed. So when they say that in the future they aren't going to continuing having major balance updates, what that means is that they are still going to have balance updates, but without this clear direction in mind. Changes, as they said back before version 2.01, are going to be made when they deem it necessary. This doesn't mean that there aren't going to be any more changes throughout the rest of the season. All we know is that the next patch in August isn't going to have any major balance updates because of major tournaments that are happening in August, namely EVO. This doesn't mean that there aren't going to be any more balance updates after this update. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be any more balance updates in Season 2. It means that they're going to be done more sporadically without this clear direction in mind. Now, keep in mind as well, this could also mean that, yeah, maybe we won't get any more balance updates for Season 2. We don't know. But with all of the people that are dooming and glooming over the fact that we're not getting any more updates, well, the only thing I have to say to those people is read better. And I'm hoping for the future that these next couple of balance updates are going to be more prevalent than they were in Season 1. I hope they're going to address more of the actual problems with the game, and they're going to be just as frequent, maybe not plentiful in their actual notes, but just as frequent as they have been these past couple of months to keep the game fresh, to keep addressing problems, and to keep the game being fun. At the end of the day, yeah, competition matters for a competitive game. Of course it does. But when the competitive players are disgruntled at the game's balance, well, frankly, that needs to be the focus. Because if you're not focusing on the balance when the competitive players are disgruntled at the balance, then what's the point of the competitive scene and where's the real competitive integrity? Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you liked this video. I hope it helped you out. And if you are looking for the anti-Falcon Run video, I'm going to record that. It's getting late. I might record it in like 30 minutes, so it'll be up tomorrow. So look out for that. Feel free to subscribe, like the video as well. Again, if this helped you out, I appreciate it a lot. It helps me out a ton. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.